Well, welcome to the Grad panel discussion. My name is Jim Cortendall, and I'm just here to introduce the speakers and to get the speakers' pizza on demand. By the way, this is sort of in conjunction with Math Club, sort of like Fight Club. The first rule of Math Club is no pizza left behind. So I expect to see undergraduates carrying boxes of pie here. So I will go in order. Our first panelist is Dr. Benjamin Breen. He is an RTG postdoc here in the School of Mathematical and Statistical Sciences. Received his BA in mathematics from Carleton College and a PhD in mathematics from Dartmouth College. His research interests include number theory, arithmetic geometry, and arithmetic statistics. Our next panelist is Dr. Deborah Kunkel. She's an assistant professor in the School of Mathematical and Statistical Sciences here at Clemson. She received a BA in business from the University of Dallas and a master's degree and PhD in statistics from the Ohio State University. Her research interests include Bayesian statistical methodology, mixture models, clustering hierarchical models, and applications in cognitive psychology and social sciences. And finally, we have Sandra Sierinsu. She's a graduate student in the School of Mathematical and Statistical Sciences here at Clemson. She received an undergraduate mathematics degree from the University of Antananarivo in Madagascar, a master's degree in algebraic biology from the African Institute for Mathematical Sciences in South Africa, and a master's degree in operations research from Clemson University. And her research interests include mathematical biology, specifically functional redundancy of microbiomes. Quite the panel, so let's welcome them.
Hi everyone, thanks for coming. My name is Kristen. I will be moderating this session today. So before we get started, I'm going to have them say a few things about their journey, but if you have questions that you need, just raise your hand and we'll get to them. Same for those in Zoom. We have someone watching the chat, so if you're in Zoom and have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat and we'll keep an eye on those. But to start, if each of you could just say a few things about your journey, how you got into math, how you decided to go to math grad school, and how you ended up here, that'd be great. Okay. I'll go first. Hi, I had a business degree as an undergraduate. So my, I guess, journey towards where I am now is a little bit unusual. And it was kind of a combination of good advice and good luck. I didn't think I was a math person. I thought there was such thing as a math person and I wasn't that. But during my business studies, I really enjoyed the quantitative side of things. And I had a professor who advised me that statistics might be a good direction to go. So I went to Ohio State intending to finish with a master's, but I just kind of fell in love with the discipline and I stuck around for a PhD. And now I'm here and I still love statistics. Thank you. Sandra?
Okay, I go next. When I was in high school, I didn't think I'm gonna go to math, but one professor, one math instructor there, he always saying me that you're gonna go to math or something like that. But I always just like I'm not gonna go there because I'm very comfortable with math, but I didn't see the future like when I was there because I was there already back then. So my interest was like go to medical school, something like that. Like everyone in my generation has that dream, and but I didn't end up there because of the system in my country. And then I applied to math because that's the only thing that I can apply for my degree. And then I got into it, and I got my bachelor. And I insist to proceed to go to med school. That was not the way for me. And then at the end, I got like to know that I can do everything with math. Like I can combine my interests in by doing math. So that's why like I'm gonna continue with this because I didn't know anything about like what would be in the beyond math. So that's why I want to explore more with the mathematics.
Great, thank you, Ben.
Yeah, so I had, I guess, when growing up in high school, I wasn't even sure I liked math, I liked physics. I was much more interested in like sports back then, and then I had a really positive experience in like a math class then, and I really enjoyed physics in high school. And so when I first went into college, I started doing math and physics, and I was dead set on physics up until my sophomore year, and then I switched to mathematics. Then I had a really positive experience with an instructor that I really liked there, and I then went to do a study abroad in mathematics, two semesters in mathematics, and that was a really, really positive experience for me. And so I decided to do mathematics for graduate school. So I went to Dartmouth mathematics, because when I attended Dartmouth, it was known for as a teaching school, so more of a school that it was focused on teaching mathematics. So spent some time there and started my PhD.
Great, thank you. So we're going to go on a little journey, starting about how you entered grad school. So what kind of questions did you ask when you were deciding between different graduate schools? Are there any questions you wish you had asked, looking back on it now? So just tell us a little bit how you chose the school you did, why you did, and is there anything you wish you would have done a little differently during that process?
Like for me, I did a master in South Africa, and Dr. Matthew Macaulay was my supervisor there. And since my interest was mathematical biology, and he did that, and I was like, I want to explore more for this field, because my idea was like going to the med school, doing some lab works or something like that. So I applied to Clemson University, and then I got into the PhD. And during my first year here, I went to the MISC, that's the medical school in Charleston. But then it was not like, it was difficult for me to be there. So I wish that I got the knowledge before, like I wish that I had more knowledge about grad school here in America than in the US, and related to med school. Like I wish that I have I focused more on the medical school, but yeah, no.
I think one of the big things for me, I felt like I was very committed to just kind of going down this academia path, just keep doing it. And one thing I didn't realize, and it was a big switch when I first kind of entered grad school, is that it's fine to take some time off and kind of experiment and see what things you like. So a lot of people, when I entered graduate school, had done the masters or spent some time outside of academia for a little bit. So I think that was a big switch for me, because up until that time, I think most of my peers were around the same age, and someday I was in a program that were all different ages and all different backgrounds. And so if you are interested in kind of pursuing graduate school, it's something that you can really start basically at any point in time you want.
Is there anybody whose interest is like in statistics specifically? Well, one thing to know is that there are math departments that have statistics, and then there's statistics departments, and there's probably a big difference in the graduate experience depending on which of those you choose. I went to a strictly statistics department. Probably I know a lot less math than a lot of the people in this room, but it was probably a much better fit for me than a mathematics program would have been. Because statistics graduates, often they need more interdisciplinary collaboration in order to get data in the first place. And a lot of people in, well, I guess that's true in a lot of mathematical sciences, but there are specific industry career paths that are very well set up in established statistics departments. That wasn't really what I was looking for when I chose a graduate school, but in the hindsight, I'm glad I went to the department I did. I would advise anyone thinking about graduate school, if you are making like a campus visit or talking to other students, pay attention to kind of the atmosphere and the interpersonal dynamics. I don't think there are very many people who can be successful in a very successful program if they're extremely unhappy there. So if the students are unhappy, I would look at that. If they seem to be failing out of the program, switching advisors frequently, that might not be a great place for you to be. It could just be that some students have bad luck, but pay attention to quality of life when choosing a graduate school.
Thank you guys. That's some really great advice. So keep an open mind about what program you want to go to, do a little digging about what the departments are like, and if you can, talk to students who are there. I've personally found it's been really helpful too. Like she said, it's hard to be successful when you're not happy. So make sure you go to a place where you think that you will be happy and have a nice home for however long you're in grad school. So after you get into grad school, what was the hardest part about transitioning from undergraduate to a graduate program? What was like some of the struggles you experienced when you first started out that first year?
I think for me, there's a lot of difference in background. So when I first started, I think I mentioned that a lot of students had completed masters already and had a lot more experience in it. So there's this and imposter syndrome, you don't feel like you're learning a lot less than other people and not supposed to be there. I think that was a big challenge. I think a lot of mental health is something that's not really talked about as much, and I think that was something that for college I felt like I was doing okay, and I think for graduate school that was something that I kind of check up and once in a while make sure I'm doing things that benefit my mental health. It's a lot more stress than sometimes, at least in the first year or so.
Like for me, when I was in undergrad, I just did my homework. Like this is just what you need to do to get the grades, and that's all. But when I got here, like you need to keep up a relationship. Like you need to network. You need to do as much of research that you like. I'm not like you need to get out of your comfort zone. So and that is very difficult for me from the first time, but I'm hanging there.
It's a process.
Yeah, I think the main thing I would say is similar in terms of like just experiencing a lot of imposter syndrome and just, being in a class where maybe like I was failing exams for the first time. I had homework sets that I actually could not solve the problems. And I think I was fortunate enough to have a cohort of supportive classmates who kind of helped me. It felt like catching up, but in hindsight, I think it was just we were all doing something hard. I think graduate school academics can be difficult in a way that your undergraduate courses are not. And it's a little bit hard to adjust to that if you're used to holding yourself to a high standard and reaching that standard every time.
A couple of you already touched on this, but is there anything you would recommend for students who go in and have that imposter syndrome or feel like they don't have the background material? Is there any advice you would give them to stick with it or how they can kind of overcome it a little bit?
Yeah, that's a hard question because I think that we've all been in situations where we think I should be more confident, but how do you actually do that? I think the people you spend time with makes a big difference. If you notice in a cohort that there are certain people that make you feel like you're no good, probably they're not the people you should study with, unless there's no other options. And this is a lot. maybe a lot easier if you are later in your well, I'll just say it. I don't know if it's good advice or not. Sometimes you find yourself in a culture that is supportive or not supportive, but also when you get to a point where maybe you're a little more comfortable in your shoes, I think you have a responsibility to create a culture that is supportive. So if you're past the point of this imposter syndrome and you're in your fifth year or something, maybe model behavior of, this is really hard, I'm struggling with it, and everybody struggles with it because we're doing a hard thing together. But maybe starting out, that's a little bit unrealistic to expect of yourself.
That's a great point. I think to kind of reiterate the onus, in some sense, the onus is on kind of the more senior mathematicians to make sure something. And I think something that helped me at least was just to eventually recognize that mathematics really should be something that's collaborative, not competitive. And you're trying to learn with your peers, and then it's hard to kind of develop an environment where you work with others and feel very open about expressing mistakes. But it's something that eventually can hopefully be developed in situations, and so try to make sure you find an environment that works for you.
Yeah, and maybe do not compare yourself to others too much, but like just compare what you've done, relating to yourself. That also works.
Yeah, I would just add that there's no wrong way to do mathematics, just because your journey is different from people who came in with you. It might take a year longer, if you need to take a semester off, that's okay. It's doing what's best for you on your journey. Just remember that everybody's struggling. Grad school is going to be hard no matter where you go, what you're doing. Some people find it easy. They're probably lying to you a little bit. They're going to be struggling too. So just remember, it's hard for everyone, and it's your journey. Take your time, go through the process the best way it is for you, whether that's switching advisors, whether that's changing schools, finding a new cohort. Just remember, mathematics should be collaborative. It should not be competitive. And it's much better when everyone's included and everyone can grow and learn together. So as a graduate student, we also have to balance taking classes, some have teaching responsibilities or TA responsibilities. If you're on assistantship, you also have to do research in a lot of programs. So what are some of the ways that you balance all those responsibilities, but also maintain a social life and stay happy and other things that you enjoy besides math and work?
I tried to keep pretty regular hours when I was a graduate student. I didn't always go into the office and leave at the same time and leave at the same time, but I didn't really treat every waking hour as a work hour, which I think is helpful. Sometimes, unfortunately, if you have teaching obligations, they might be kind of staggered at inconvenient times, so it's not always possible, but I think that helps me a lot.
For me, I always force myself to save some time for myself, because that will help me a lot when I am struggling with the study. So I need to get away from it a little bit, and that is like after that, when I come back with to the work, it will go smoothly. So that will also work. Just save time for yourself.
Definitely second that. So I think my first 2 years of graduate school, I didn't really care for myself very well. And I just like get burned out, kind of like get run down. And so late afterwards, I started really kind of investing in at least spend some amount of time each day, going on a walk. The exercise really helped improve the mental health. Things like social time is really good. I mean, it's sometimes you can get in graduate school, you just want to sit and like work the entire time, but it's good to like take at least one day each week and go out with friends and hang out with them, go out for dinner in the bar or something, just kind of meet with people and talk, and something that's not mathematics, but it improves your mental health. And that is, I felt like that was so much better in the long run. It was actually my advisor did sit down with me but then you need to take a break for a little bit. What are you doing each week? You do it 2 days a week where you're like doing something that you like. That's not math. So like, I think it's important to kind of invest in something that's not just math and that helps you not get from that.
Yeah, definitely. I took karate class my first year, which was great. When I was frustrated with my homework, I had to go punch things. It was a time I had twice a week, I had an hour where I had to be physically somewhere else outside of my office, outside of my desk at home doing work. So just making sure to carve out time that's not math related. You will get burned out, you will get exhausted. So make sure you take care of yourself. If you're unhappy, if you're not eating, if you're not sleeping, you're not going to be able to do your best work that way either. So always.
That's great.
Yeah.
Oh, I have one more thing. Yeah. It's helpful if you can find friends who aren't in your program.
Yeah.
Yeah, find some people who don't want to talk math with you. It's really nice. It's really refreshing sometimes. So during graduate school, you typically have to do research. So how did you pick either an advisor or a research topic? Did you go in with that idea? Did your interest kind of change? So a little bit about how you picked your either research topic or your advisor, whatever came first.
When I got into in Clemson, I didn't know what really I want to do, like what really I want to, what is the area that I want to go for, because I want to be the practical mathematical biology. And I was interested in OR, like operation research, and I kind of like where should I go? So then, since the program is master in to PhD, so I decided to do the master in OR first. So and then I went to the conference called SACMAS, and then I got my advisor there. Like, there is these projects, if you are interested. And so it is a project in biology department. So now I'm doing that. Like, yeah, this is what I want. So it is helpful to go to some conferences to explore your interests. If you are in a position like, where should I go? How do I pick my advisor or something like that?
I went to a very small graduate school. We typically only have 6 students per year, and I'd done a lot of work in number theory prior to that. So my advisor more picked me. So I don't know if my response is a very good response. So I started meeting with my first year, my second year. He's very bubbly and he's very peaceful. It's kind of funny as good socially, but yeah, it was a very different experience, and I think you will have to go to a larger grad. You're at a higher state.
Yeah. So my program was quite big. I don't even know the number of students, but probably at least 20 faculty in statistics, if not more. And ours was kind of a coursework heavy program, so we didn't really start thinking about research until our 3rd year. Some of the really people who were in a hurry to get out did so earlier. But we would have, we had a bunch of like different journal clubs for different kind of themes, areas of research. And that really helped me because it was a directed way to read some papers and then think really hard about them. This might be true about other fields of mathematics, but I feel like, especially like with statistics at least, it's kind of difficult for something to just like spark your interest like in a cursory kind of way, because it's more like equations and stuff. So it really took reading papers carefully before I discovered like, oh, this like just really lights me up and I like working in this area. So then I met with my potential advisor, we started reading together, and the project just kind of came out of the reading. So I was lucky in that sense. I think it's good to have a good relationship with your advisors. If you've had a professor in the classroom that you got along with well, that might be a good person to talk to. And and having like some informal meetings and reading before you choose an advisor, if your program is set up to allow that, is sometimes a good way to figure out if you have a good fit or not.
Yeah, I've heard advice where it's kind of like you're dating your advisor. So even if your advisor chooses you, remember you can choose them back. So just because they like you and your work doesn't mean you have to like them. You have to be a good fit. You're going to work with them. You're going to struggle. You're going to get upset, and you have to have someone there who's going to support you. So if you don't feel like that's that person, don't feel obligated to take their invitation to work with you. So just remember, you have as much of a choice in it as they do too. So ask questions, ask a lot of questions, ask their former students if they like working with them, what kind of projects they worked on, and what was like the atmosphere in the meetings, things like that. Okay. So what kind of tactics did you use when you started writing your thesis or your dissertation, and like starting that whole big writing process of the big research dissertation at the end?
So I'm not, so I'm still in my third year, so I'm in that position, so.
Still kind of a blur, honestly. One of my big writing strategies is to like write a lot of bad stuff before it gets good. Everybody kind of has their own style though, but like I can't look at a page and say I've got to write something good. So I just write something bad and then I go over it over and over again. I didn't have the best habits in terms of like, probably somebody will tell you you should write like an hour a day at the same time of the day. And I think that that would probably be a really good way to go about it, but that wasn't what I did.
My advisor had a very different approach where he didn't want the thesis to be like a barrier to like earning a degree, but he wanted it to be more of a stepping stone into like moving on. And so he was more emphasizing that your thesis doesn't really matter as much. What he was trying to do this is kind of get some publications done, papers out. And so, but he was very easy to work with, and he would meet like once. We'd meet once a week at least and talk about stuff. And so he was very good. In terms of graduate schools, I think you can find many different types of advisors. Like I think one of the faculty here, they asked him how frequently he met with his advisor. And so no, like once a week. And he was like, no, once. Once total. So hopefully I would recommend trying to make sure that you set up at least weekly, once, maybe 2 times a month or something, meetings with your advisor, just so you're staying on track. I think it's really easy, particularly in the third year, the fourth year, and the fifth year, to kind of get lost. So if you have a very committed advisor, you meet at least hopefully every week, maybe every 2 weeks. So I think that would help stay on track.
Definitely. And just remember, you'll be reading research papers. These are like trained professionals who have already shred all their bad stuff and they only present you the good. So you don't have to feel pressure that the first thing you write is going to be the best thing ever. So I really like what she said. Just write what you can and then refine it later. When you get to higher level math, it's more about technical writing, which is typically a new thing. It's not creative writing. It has to be very like formal, logical. So it's a training process to get to that point. So just remember that it's okay to be bad to start. Your advisor should be there to help. Meet with them, get suggestions from them as you go. What is one thing you wish you did when you started graduate school that would have helped you later on in graduate school?
I was very afraid to make mistakes. It's something that everyone makes all the time, and so I think I would shy away from like asking questions, or I was always very self-conscious about not. I think something that I started doing more like more comfortable with making mistakes, making errors, asking questions, times, but that stuff. You learn a lot more.
Yeah, I was gonna say kind of similar thing, networking, approaching people, asking what you want to ask, don't be shy, something like that. also like creating a lot of things related to my area, something.
Yeah, I would second maybe reading a lot. It's a good way to figure out what you're interested in, and it's really exciting to like read a journal article and just understand it and think it's cool what the authors are doing. It's hard to make time for that, but
Okay, and then a few questions about leaving graduate school. So Ben and Deborah here. What kind of programs were you part of during graduate school that prepared you for your current career right now?
I have a quick answer if you guys want more.
Yeah,
So there were a few things. One thing that I did in grad school that prepared me well for it now is in grad school, we had an AMS chapter, and I was in charge of scheduling all of the presentations. And that was very good for me now because you guys probably don't get the emails, but all the graduate students will get the emails. I now schedule the ADM seminar. So one of the seminars here. So that was something that's just like a little minor thing. So it wasn't necessarily one of the things that helped me get a job. It wasn't one of the things that necessarily was like, oh my gosh, because I did this, now I'm pro status. But it is something that I did in grad school that really has helped me now. That's a math adjacent thing, getting ready for those service requirements. Did I stall you for long enough? Want me to do the last answer?
So I guess I didn't do this in graduate school, but starting at Clemson, I'm similar to Ryan. I organized our PG seminar, and so that was really something that was really useful. I wish I had started organizing seminars earlier. You learn to reach out to people, to ask questions, and then that helps a lot with research because you become more comfortable. Once you already have connections with people, you can just start, be like, hey, I can figure out how to solve this. You guys have an idea of how to do this. So it helps a lot, kind of like the social aspect, of like connecting with people, asking for help. So that was something I wish I'd done in graduate school.
yeah, I don't think involved in any organizations, but I think that if I could do it again, I would have spent more time trying to get involved in like student chapters of something. And it's kind of a jump sometimes to go from being a graduate student to trying to be like a member of the academic community, because you need to know people, you need to have a little bit of confidence and ability to talk to people. So anything you can do that can build those skills is useful. I did participate pretty frequently in my journal club, and I did at least every semester, if not twice a semester, I would give a presentation for about an hour on a paper, and that is definitely good preparation for job talks or probably interviews for private sector positions as well.
Yeah, highly encourage you to give a math club talk. Dr. Kunkel's always looking for speakers. So start early. You're gonna have to give a lot of talks as you go on. You have a question?
For those who don't know, could you tell us what ADM and RTG are?
Oh, yes. So ADM is the algebraic and discrete math sector of, so it's just basically saying, if these general topics interest you, this is the seminar to talk about it. RTG has number theory, crypto, and coding theory. So the seminars here are divided by interests. So a lot of times, like math club, you could have any type of interest and you can come talk here. Whereas for the ADM and RTG, depending on what the actual topic is, would depend on where you would present. Ours are actually kind of related though. So ours sometimes get kind of mixed together, but that's okay. There's also analysis seminars here, statistics seminars. So just based on what the presenter wants to talk about or what research they do.
So I guess the tack on to all of this is that one of the things I guess that was useful at graduate school was give talks, and we had a small kind of like graduate student seminar where you don't have faculty there. It's very informal, and I felt like that helped a lot for first time you give a talk. It's not good.
Yeah.
And I think that was really useful. So definitely the more opportunities you can have, small things. Yeah, your math club, I think is a great area.
So how did you end up choosing academia over industry? Basically, how did you choose what you wanted to do after grad school? Did you go in thinking you're going to stay on the academia track? Were you unsure? Did something sway you one way or the other? And just to be clear, academia means you would stay at a university, probably become a professor. Industry is a typical like job career at a company. You could be at a government job maybe too doing research. So academia is more you stay at a university, and then industry is, I always think out in the real world, but typically at a company like that.
I actually didn't have a super strong preference either way. Definitely wanted to have a job that I was happy with, and I wanted to move to this part of the country. In academia, you don't really have the luxury always of choosing where you want to live, but I was very fortunate that this position became available and I got it. And I'm very happy actually that I did choose academia. I think that there's something very beautiful about working on a university campus, and there's stuff that annoys you, but at the same time, like a couple times a week, you get to be in a room full of people who are going to learn something new, and that's just a really cool way to spend your days. So I recommend it.
I guess it's nice to have a lot of academic freedom. Like if you're in industry, I think someone's telling you what to do, and you don't have all of that. You're more in academia, you have more flexible hours, but that also allows you to work a lot more. And then in some sense, there is it's satisfying working with students. So I think all of those kind of contributed to these things in academia.
And the last one of my questions I have is, what is the hardest part about transitioning from graduate school to a career, either a postdoc or going on to become a professor? Actually, Ben, would you mind saying a few words about what a postdoc actually does? Some people might not actually know what postdoc means.
Right. So a postdoc is a temporary position. You don't have much job security, and you also don't have as much responsibilities, but you're doing more research. So it's kind of like a position where you develop your research portfolio. You start kind of carving out an area for yourself and developing. This is my research area. Next year, and then eventually, what you'll do is you'll start. Once you finish a postdoc, you'll start a tenure track position. And once you start a tenure track position, you usually have a ticking clock. Something along the lines of like 6 years. So 7 years.
You like usually go up like, yeah.
So just for
On your side.
perspective, I am a postdoc currently. Ryan was the RTG postdoc prior to me, so she just started the tenure track position here. You're also on the tenure clock several years senior. So it's I think that the postdoc is in some sense nice in that you're able to do research, but it's also stressful in that you don't have a guaranteed job for next year. So for example, I'm in my second year, I don't have a guaranteed job for the next year, so I'm on the job market and take your jobs. And so there's a lot of time that you have to spend kind of applying for jobs. That's draining and tiring, but hopefully something that comes back.
What was the question? What's difficult about the transition?
Yeah,
Okay.
transition from grad school to a career.
I think something very difficult for me has been just like having to make so many decisions about what to do with all of your time all the time, which is one of the great things about being an academic. You don't have a boss telling you what to do for the most part. But even when you compare research as a graduate student, where you're doing it mostly on your own, but you have an advisor kind of guiding you. When you start doing it on your own, it can feel very different because you have to make all of the judgment calls about what's worth doing and what's not worth doing. And then in the teaching environment, the same thing comes up. Every day you're deciding, what am I going to teach? Is it good? Should I move this due date? Should I move this exam? So that's difficult. I think it helps sometimes to put decisions on the to-do list so that it feels like, okay, well, that's the task I need to do. I need to make a decision about this and then stick with it. Yeah, that's probably the hardest part, I would say.
We have a question from the Zoom chat. Are there any programming skills or specific softwares you would recommend undergrads get familiar with now that made your time as a student easier or that you continue to use currently?
Yeah.
Yeah, LaTeX or MATLAB would be helpful because there are some most of the homeworks, even if it's not required, at the end of the time, you're gonna write your work on LaTeX, so that would be a good skill to have.
Yeah, for statistics, probably a lot of academics would tell you a lot of data scientists would tell you pick Python. It probably doesn't matter that much, but it's good to have a little bit of familiarity telling a computer what to do, like writing some kind of program, even if it's a different language that isn't as widely used. But yeah, R and Python are the big ones for statistics these days, I would say.
Yeah, if you're doing algebra and number theory, I do explicit methods there, so I do a lot of computations, and taking abstract mathematical objects, kind of explicitly developing methods to kind of produce those. So the two big software packages that are used there are Sage, which is an open source software package, which is great, and Magma it's one of your pay for. It's in some sense very nice, but so those are. But I think you don't typically learn those in undergrad. Much more advanced.
For Magma, if you have a university ID, you don't have to pay for it. So if
Yes,
you're
yes.
paying, okay, I was gonna say, if you're paying for it.
I've done that assignments.
Okay, yeah.
And I get it just through my advisor.
Okay, okay.
Do y'all learn Sage in undergrad now? Like I did when I was an undergrad here. You did?
Yeah.
I know sometimes whoever teaches 3600 goes between Sage and MATLAB, so I was just curious which one y'all were learning. And then yeah, to emphasize LaTeX, it's for mathematical formatting. We all use it, like all the older people here are like nodding their heads like yes, learn it. The more or the sooner you learn it, the easier it is to just jump right into it. It's not always a requirement, but eventually it will be. So
Really satisfying.
Yes.
Time you learn how to type math.
Oh, so much better.
yeah. All right.
Yeah, the best way to learn is to steal.
Yeah.
Just code.
Yeah, just email it. Can I have the template, please? And then you just kind of go off of it. You can build your own commands in. So I have a lot of shortcuts that I like typing out one word. So yeah, just ask people for it. Sometimes at the graduate student seminar, we have someone who comes in to teach it. So next time we do that, I might advertise it to undergrads too, just so you can kind of see what it is and what you can do with it. I'm out of questions here. Do y'all have any questions or anybody on Zoom have any more questions? Yeah.
I was kind of wondering, what's the general process of like the path within grad schools that you do, like classes and stuff before you would start new research? How long does that last?
Yeah, so here in Clemson, we have 2 years for class courses. So we have breadth courses, 5 areas. So you need to take 2 from each for the PhD, for the master's really. And then after you get that, if you want to go for a PhD, you have to take the prelim courses, prelim exams. We have 3, 2 areas that you need to take. And after that, you can do your research, or in between you can start your research if you find your professor, whenever you want to start, you can start.
Our program was pretty similar, 2 years of coursework, then qualifying exams after each year, and then we started research. But there are many programs where you can start research right away. If you come in knowing interest, that might be a good thing to use to choose a graduate program, because some students get frustrated by all the courses. But for some students like me, it really helped because I didn't have the
like a difference, like what is the difference between the master's and PhD?
At my program, there was like a first year of courses that was the same, whether you were getting a master's of science or a PhD. And then in the second year, there were some more theoretical courses, most of which master's students didn't have to take. The master's students take one exam, and then the PhD students take kind of a master's exam their first year and then a PhD exam their second year.
And for master, you don't have to take the Breen exams. So that's also the difference.
I would say every program is different though, like, Clemson has a master's en route to a PhD program that's pretty like clear and set, and we do a lot more coursework, we have a large breadth requirement. Some universities, you can just hop in and do research right away, and you don't have to take as many classes, so it is kind of program dependent as well. And typically for the master's, you don't have to do a big dissertation, you do like a project or a thesis, but it's not on the same scale as like defending a PhD. So the research that you actually have to do is a little bit different too. It's a little less strict, I would say.
I think it's certainly possible to do a master somewhere and then transfer to a PhD program. So, yeah.
There are some programs that actually don't have any masters only. There are some programs where you have to pay for your master's, which you won't have to pay for a PhD. So just be careful if you're looking just for a master's, you might not get like assistantship support. That's something that I'm assuming you're fortunate enough to. Any other questions?
Was there anything that you got involved with kind of in your undergrad that maybe prepared you for grad school, or just like finding, you know, what disciplines you're interested in, whether it was research or internships or on-campus stuff that kind of helped you?
Can I go again? I'm so sorry. When I sit up here, I feel like it's mine. I get really, I'm just looking at the computer, but look into REUs. So the letter R, the letter E, the letter U. So that's a research experience for undergrads. Those are incredibly helpful. You can go to the NSF and like nsf.gov, and then like in the search bar type in REU, and there will be a bunch that'll come up. That was honestly extremely helpful for me. That's something that gives you your firsthand look at what math research looks like. Now, granted, I did an REU in a topic that I don't even really know what I was thinking, that I don't know what we were talking about. And then I did research now that is not at all related to that. But it was so helpful just to kind of like meet other math people, see it, and say, hey, this is actually what research looks like. And that's also where I learned how to type tech. So
It's also
Very
only like it's a summer program, so it's a 10 or 12-week commitment. Pick a topic, if you end up hating it,
it doesn't
it's
matter.
a summer program. It's not like you were in graduate school, you spent all this time doing this work, and now you end up disliking it. So it's definitely good to put some feelers out if you think you're interested in something, because it's not a long-term commitment. And you make friends, you know, like social aspects, networking, things like that. At Clemson in specific, there are creative inquiry CI courses. Some math professors run those here. They're more like research-based, project-based. I don't know how you'd find those other than maybe just going to Ivor, you know, a course catalog. They definitely look into those here at Clemson. I did one when I was an undergrad, and that's how I met my first advisor here at Clemson. I saw two hands up, so I guess anyone else has.
I could say it's definitely second to RU. I did an RU at Montevideo College. And prior to that, I didn't know that I was going to go to graduate school. And that's when I first decided I really did want to go to graduate school in mathematics. And there's a lot of things that I felt like my school didn't tell me that I needed to know, like preparing for graduate school. One of them was like the math subject test, the GRE subject test, which I didn't know that you have to study for that or take that. And it's an exam that I think I learned afterwards that everyone takes it and they give you some percentage. And typically, the first time you take it, you score really, really lowly. Like you're told that you're like 30%, 30% or 20%, and you're used to doing really well in math classes, and so you get hammered by this exam. It's something that the second time you take it, you usually know what they're looking for, so your score goes up a lot. So I definitely recommend keeping eyes out for that exam. That was GREs, it gives you some experience for what research would be like later on. And as Ryan said, you do it in a topic that typically, might be completely unrelated to what you do in the future. But it does give you some experience with research. And you meet other people who are also interested in graduate school and just kind of talk to them.
I can give some advice on actually the GRE. If you have to take the subject test, the best thing you can do to prep it is to teach calculus, right, or tutor, because most of the problems don't go beyond a level that you can probably see in an undergraduate school. A place like Clemson, you have the opportunity to see all the stuff. The harder problems, tick-tock, they take longer. So if you're quick on the easier problems, that's very effective. And so that was a big advantage I had, because I had been teaching a couple of years. And so those problems went quickly.
So shameless plug for the undergraduate women in here. The EDGE program, Enhancing Diversity in Graduate Education, is specifically for women who are interested in or have already got accepted to a PhD program in math. And it's for 4 to 6 weeks in the summer, and you go to a university, a host university. There's a cohort of 16 women, all at going to different universities, and you work. So you're not doing research, you're actually prepping for the courses that, such as Ben was mentioning, the course heavy beginning of your graduate school education. You're all doing it together because most of the time, most universities have the same set of core courses. And so you take these 4 courses with these 16 women, and you start your network of women in mathematics, and then you can just branch out from there. But that is available to you after you graduate undergrad, and you have either been accepted to a PhD program or you are applying to one. So you can also do it in your first year of graduate school as well, but that's the cutoff.
One other plug, you can go to Clemson AWM events, so Association for Women in Math events. Everyone's welcome regardless of gender identity, but we have like coffee breaks, tea times, we're bringing some speakers. We're doing a game night on Pi Day this semester, so that's a great opportunity. We have faculty come, postdocs, grad students. So it's a good way to network at your own institution with some people that you can ask questions as well.
Follow us on our Facebook page.
I think it comes in Association for Women in Mathematics.
Yeah. We're actually gonna have a jobs panel, an industry jobs panel, so some former Clemson students are gonna come back and talk about what they do with their math degrees. So that'll be in April. Yeah, I'll advertise that to everyone. You'll probably see an email either from me or the Clemson AWM account. Any other questions y'all have? We have a couple minutes left. Yeah.
I would ask, since I'm a graduating senior now, so I'm not gonna have, or I wouldn't be able to do any math research before I graduate. I was wondering, like, what, if I were to go to grad school, like a few years from now, what would I want to do in between to prepare for that?
You know what areas you might be interested in?
I don't know much of a specific idea. I'm doing computational math.
I can start if you want to. Since you're interested in computational math, then I would say look for just a program that has faculty that are doing things like that, and then that would be a good graduate school to start at least. You can always stop and get your master's and go to a new university in terms of getting your PhD. But in your first couple years, you're doing coursework, and you just want to make sure you have faculty there who you can work with if you become interested in it, because you don't want to go to a department that's heavy on algebra if you're and then maybe there's no faculty that's doing computational math, then you wouldn't thrive in the end of that program. So I would think in terms of that.
When I graduated, I had no research experience in undergrad, and part of the reason that I ended up at Clemson, I took a gap year, and during that time I was not doing any research. I gravitated towards Clemson program because of the breadth requirements that Clemson has. So if you look for a graduate school that has a wide variety of courses kind of at the beginning, that can also help you if you're still unsure about what your research area is. Just kind of get exposed to all of it and see what courses interest you the most. That's how I found my advisor was taking a bunch of courses, and I was like, well, this one seems the most interesting. And happen to have a topic in that area.
What did you do during your gap year?
I taught algebra and trig at a community college and did a lot of private tutoring. Yeah.
I would just say you don't have to go into grad school knowing exactly what you want to do. I thought I did, and I changed after 3 years, and now I'm doing something completely different. So just because you don't have the research experience doesn't mean you're going to be behind or anything. Some people come in thinking they know what they want to do, but they don't like it and they switch. So it's totally okay to go in, keep an open mind, even if you do think you're going to like enjoy something. Don't close off other classes. There's some awesome mathematics you're going to be missing if you go in closed minded and just narrow it on one topic. Time for like maybe one more question, just a couple more minutes. It's totally okay if y'all like it's Friday night and we want to go. All right, well, let's thank our panelists here. Appreciate y'all coming.
So thank you, and thank you to our panelists again. I just wanted to tell you a couple of I can't think of my words right now. I'm gonna tell you a couple of things.
We both said it.
Announcements
We
for
got you.
tomorrow and Sunday. Thank you. Tomorrow we'll have short talks in the morning. We start with short talks, and there'll be some breakfast items. So if you want to get there a little bit early, that is, you're welcome to do so. We'll also have the poster session tomorrow, so that will be in M1. And then we have 2 plenary speakers who will stream live, similar to what we did earlier. And a joint panel, which will also be